Arizona urban legends are a time-honored tradition dating back decades, which is no surprise because the Copper State is a bit of a hotbed for paranormal activity. It has more than its fair share of haunted hotels and saloons, as well as a few more unique haunted spots. Today, we will look at 10 of Arizona's many urban legends. Jerome Grand Hotel was constructed in 1926, but as a hospital, the United Verde Hospital. It was the fourth hospital in Jerome and boasted being a state-of-the-art facility at the time. The hospital closed its doors in 1950 as mining operations were closing up shop. The next 44 years, the building remained abandoned. In 1994, Larry Althery bought the building and remodeled it to the hotel it is today. Jerome Grand Hotel opened its doors in 1996. Visitors and staff of the hotel have reported hearing unexplainable coughing, labored breathing, and voices coming from the empty rooms. Others have reported strange smells of flowers, dust, cigar smoke, and whiskey. Light anomalies and TVs that turn on and off by themselves are also reported. There are also reports of a child about 4 or 5 years old running down the hall laughing or crying. The child has been reported to be seen at the foot of beds in various rooms. The sounds of children playing and running have also been reported on the 3rd and 4th floors, as well as the smell of baby powder. The crying of a baby has alerted enough guests that they have phoned the front desk out of concern. The location of the cry is always in a vacant room. Other reports include shampoo bottles rolling across the floor or being thrown, doors of vacant rooms opening and closing by themselves, and people finding their electronic devices dead center under their beds. Front desk staff have reported hearing coughing and sneezing from the laundry room and seeing the shadows move. They believe this to be Claude Harvey, an old hospital maintenance worker who was found dead under the elevator on April 3, 1935. They also report seeing Claude roaming as if still working. Many guests have reported seeing 2 women, one in a white gown, the other in an old nurse's outfit, as well as a doctor in a white lab coat. There has only been one other death since the hospital's closing. Menenau Power was hired to look after the building to help prevent any more vandalism. He was found hanging from a steam pipe in the engineer's office in 1982. His death was ruled a suicide. Yuma Territorial Prison was constructed in 1876. Believe it or not, several prisoners had to build their own cells. During its 33 years of operation, there were a total of 3,069 inmates, including 29 women. The most well-known prisoner was Pearl Hart, the infamous stagecoach robber who was sentenced to 5 years in 1899. She was pardoned in 1902, but her partner in crime, Joe Boot, was not so lucky and sentenced to 30 years. Joe did escape prison in 1901 and was never seen again. By 1909, the prison had become overcrowded and all of the inmates were moved to a new jail in Florence, Arizona. In 1961, it became the Yuma Territorial Prison State Park and open for visitors today. People have reported seeing the apparitions of a little girl in a red dress that drowned in the Colorado River while trying to get her doll out of the water. She has been reported to poke or pinch people she doesn't like or is wearing the color red. Her mother has also been reported to be seen wandering along the banks of the river looking for her daughter. There have been many reports from the dark cell where inmates were put when they broke the rules. As punishment, their clothes were taken from them, leaving them in just their underwear, chained in a pitch-black cell. Sometimes guards would even throw scorpions into the cell as torture. After spending time in the dark cell, inmates were severely affected. 2 prisoners were so much so that they were transferred to an insane asylum. People visiting today report very uneasy feelings. Cell 14 is reported to be a hot spot for paranormal activity. John Ryan, an inmate from around 1900, committed suicide in the cell. Unexplainable cold spots are often reported by people walking by. In the offices at museum, it is reported that things are moved around, lights are turned on and off by themselves, and sometimes coins from the cash drawer fly into the air and then land back into the drawer. When Arizona was just a territory, John Weatherford rode into Flagstaff with big dreams. Soon he built what would become known as one of the finest hotels in the West, which opened on New Year's Day of 1900. The luxurious hotel attracted many visitors, including some well-known people such as William Randolph Hearst, President Theodore Roosevelt, Zane Grey, and Wyatt Earp. During the early part of the 20th century, artist Thomas Moran spent many a nights at Weatherford Hotel while he completed his sketches of Western landscape. Over the years, the historic hotel served many different purposes, including Flagstaff's first telephone exchange company, a number of restaurants, a theater, a radio station, and a billiard hall. Today, it has been fully restored to a hotel. Along with its rich history, Hotel Weatherford also has a few resident ghosts. In the Zane Grey ballroom, a ghost of a woman has been seen floating across the room. Sometimes she is said to dart from side to side. Also, the light over the pool table has been reported to sway on its own, and disembodied whispers and voices come from an empty bar. Room 54 is reported to be haunted by a bride and groom that were murdered there on their honeymoon in the 1930s. There have been reports of people waking up in that room to see a young couple sitting at the foot of their bed. The room has since been turned into a storage closet, but guests still report seeing the couple enter that room. Staff have also reported hearing their names called by someone unseen on the 4th floor, as well as feeling a presence of someone standing behind them. Everyone loves a good treasure hunting story. It's an entire genre all on its own. Mankind has been enthralled by lost treasure legends for centuries. There have been many great discoveries, but also much bloodshed in those pursuits. The legend of the lost Dutchman's gold mine is one such legend. The Superstition Mountains has been a mystery full of legends for centuries. There are many ancient cliff dwellings and caves dotting the area. Many believe the first people to occupy the area were the Salado or the Hohokam natives, and later the Apaches. Sometime during the 1840s, the Peralta family from northern Mexico are said to have had a rich gold mine in the Superstition Mountains. On their last trip to carry gold back to Mexico in 1848, the large party was ambushed by the Apaches. They were killed except 1 or 2, depending on the story, of the Peltero family, who managed to escape. The area of the attack is known today as the Massacre Grounds. Many people were supposed to have known the mine's location or have worked it. There have been many maps through the years, only to become lost or misplaced when pressed for facts. Men who claimed to have found the mine were unable to return to it, or some disaster happened before a claim could be filed. In the 1870s, Jacob Waltz, the Dutchman, was said to have found the mine with the help from the Territorial descendant. The Dutchman and his partner Jacob Weiser worked the mine and supposedly hid many caches of gold in the mountains. Many stories say the gold is hidden in the area known today as Weaver's Needle, where Weiser was said to have been killed by Apaches or the Dutchman, depending on the legend you hear. The Dutchman eventually moved to Phoenix and died of pneumonia in 1891. A neighbor who took care of him while he was sick, Julia Thomas, claimed he described the location of the mine to her. Neither Julia or many other seekers through the years have been able to find the lost Dutchman's mine. Many have tried, and many have met with foul play or death, contributing to the superstitions and legends of the surrounding mountains. Hotel Monte Vista opened its doors on New Year's Day, 1927, and was originally named the Community Hotel in honor of the townspeople who contributed to its existence. Eventually, the name was changed to Monte Vista, meaning Mountain View, which was chosen by a 12-year-old contestant winner. The Monte Vista has always been rumored to be haunted. The spirits are said to haunt some of the rooms as well as the halls. In the 1970s, 3 men robbed a bank and 1 was shot by a guard. Regardless, the men decided to head to the hotel's bar to celebrate. The man that had been shot bled to death in the lounge. Employees and visitors have reported hearing a disembodied voice saying good morning, as well as drinks and stools moving on their own. There have also been many reports of a ghostly couple wearing formal clothing and dancing in the cocktail lounge. They are always seen smiling and laughing. A little boy has been reported to be seen roaming the halls. Some people have reported that they heard the boy's voice, like he was talking to his mother. Some have reported to feel him grabbing their hands. He is believed to be a friendly spirit that wants to play with the other children visiting the hotel. Front desk employees and a few housekeepers have reported a polite elevator attendant asking, "Which floor may I take you to?" and then his ghostly hand closing the gate. The hotel's basement is something a little more frightening. Employees and delivery men have reported a shadow figure over 6 feet tall who will stand behind them and make them feel uncomfortable. There have also been reports of a baby crying in the basement when there are no babies there. Many guests have reported a knock on their door, followed by someone saying, "Room service." When they answer, there is no one there. But at room 210, the apparition of a bellboy has been seen. Even John Wayne reported seeing the ghostly bellboy when he stayed there. In room 306, 2 prostitutes were killed, their bodies thrown out the window in the 1940s. Guests who have stayed in this room have reported being woken up by something and the feeling like someone is watching them. Men are mostly affected, reporting that they felt a hand covering their mouths and throats, making it hard to breathe. And room 305 is said to be the most haunted room. Employees and guests reported seeing a woman sitting in a rocking chair by the window. Others reported the chair rocking on its own. There have also been reports of unexplainable knocking coming from inside the closet. In the 1980s, a man staying in room 220 died and wasn't found for 3 days. When a worker was making repairs in the room, he left for a few minutes. When he returned, the TV was turned on full volume and the bed sheets were thrown all over the room. Guests who have stayed in this room reported the TV turning on and off by itself and the feel of cold hands touching them when they sleep. Luana's Canyon sits just southeast of Kingman, Arizona. During the gold rush of the 1800s, there was a family who lived in a small wooden shack in the canyon. The husband would often venture out for 2 weeks at a time in search of gold and supplies for his family. The only food the small family had was what the man would bring home from his expeditions. One day, the husband kissed his family goodbye and rode off once again to provide for them. Little did he know that was the last time he would see his family. The man soon became another gold rush tragedy and died. The wife waited for many days after his expected return, but soon realized something was wrong and that he would not be coming home. Slowly, the remaining food dwindled till there was nothing. The mother and her 2 children were starving. Without food or husband, she slowly began to slip into madness. The constant begging for food from her pale, weak children finally pushed her over the edge. Unable to cope watching her children starve to death, she murdered them, cut them into pieces while wearing her white wedding dress. When the horrible deed was finished, her white dress and the walls of the shack were painted with the blood of her children. The woman then carried what was left of her children to the river and threw them in. She was so overcome with sadness and guilt that she stayed at the river screaming and wailing until she succumbed to starvation the next day. She died crying for the children she murdered, but they were doomed to die anyway. According to locals, the wails from the mother can still be heard throughout the canyon today. The Vulture mine began in 1863 with the discovery of quartz outcropping containing gold. Shortly after the mine was established, a small mining town developed called Vulture City. In 1942, Vulture mine was shut down by a regulatory agency for processing gold. This was a violation at the time because all resources were to be focused on the war effort. The mine appealed the order and reopened. A few years later, the mine closed for an extended period of time. Today, the mine is in operation again, but on a separate property, not open to the public. With gold, there is always greed or an attitude of each man for himself. So yes, there were many miners attempting to take the gold. The ones who tried to steal the gold from the mine were faced with the hangman's noose deep in the caves. There have been also many reports of rapes, murders, and other heinous tales. Vulture Mine is now almost completely a ghost town. There are rumors and talk of evil, angry spirits roaming around the dusty old town, hiding among the condemned buildings. Visitors and tour guides have reported various apparitions, disembodied voices, phantom footsteps shuffling, and a dark, shadowy figures on the walls when no one is around. There are many stories from the history of Vulture Mine. One is of Jimmy, a young man whose life came to a sad end while working the big machinery at the mine's powerhouse. The spirit of Jimmy has been reported many times from the mines. The sounds of pulley belts whipping, a man bellowing in the distance, and the sounds of men working along with the sound of pickaxes being thrown have been reported. The gold from Vulture mine was stored in the Assay office in underground vaults. The office fell victim to thieves many times. In those times, there were no lawyers or trials, so a vigilante committee hung the thieves and then buried them either at the spot or at the cemetery. Tourist groups exploring the mines have reported rocks being thrown at them, phantom footsteps, and ghostly voices in the distance calling tourists by name. Palace Saloon in Prescott opened in September of 1877. It was more than just your average watering hole. Decorated tastefully and lavishly, it had nothing but the finest liquors from exotic locations all over the world. It also gave the men a place to check the board for jobs and read about the national news. In 1883, a fire destroyed the saloon, and the owner rebuilt it, making it stronger and grander than the last. The new saloon had a stone foundation, brick walls, and a long bar. In July of 1900, another fire damaged the saloon. According to reports, patrons grabbed the liquor and took it to Courthouse Plaza across the street. Drinks were served to the men who helped save some of the valuables. The current saloon was rebuilt in 1901. One of the most popular ghosts of the Palace Saloon is of Nevins. It is said that he was playing a game of high-stakes poker and was losing badly. He put his mortuary up as collateral and lost everything to the sheriff. It is said that whenever men play poker, the spirit of Nevins returns, wanting to replay that fateful game of cards. The owner of the saloon has photographs which shows a ghostly figure of a man standing in the background. He has also reported that glasses would fall off the rack for no apparent reason, and once a plant that was sitting on the bar fell over by itself. There was also a mannequin that fell over the railing when no one was around. The Mogollon Rim is a rock that stretches 200 miles across Arizona and said to be home to a monster. The Mogollon monster was first reported in 1903 by a man who encountered the beast close to the Grand Canyon, drinking the blood of mountain lions. He described the monster as a human-looking creature with long white hair and a beard that reaches its knees. The beast was also reported to have 2-inch claws on his fingers. It is said when the creature noticed him, it threatened him with a club. The monster has been reported many times since then and has been described as black, gray, or white with either a square or round head, but all reports say the creature is a tall, hair-covered beast on 2 legs with a human-like hairless face. Although most people believe the monster is a Bigfoot, one hiker claimed to have seen the creature said it was a troll. While hiking the Mogollon Rim Canyon, he saw the creature on its knees, drinking water from a pool, making pig-like noises. The creature is said to have bluish-gray hair and a human-like face with bumps all over it. He said when he saw him, the troll stood on 2 legs and ran away. Built in 1902, Cook Tunnel has a dark, grim history. In June of 1905, a rock slide in the tunnel hit a passenger train bound for Benson. The train only suffered minimal damage, but the track was completely blocked. It is not clear if anyone died in this incident, but just a few short years later there was one confirmed death. Henry A. Marks was found dead in the tunnel in 1912. His body was battered and bruised, his arms and legs broken, and one of his limbs was almost completely detached. It is believed he was run over by a train. Witnesses say he was drunk when he left the Bisbee headed home through Cook Tunnel. His spirit is said to still haunt the tunnel, and according to some investigators, Henry's death may not have been an accident. Reports of paranormal activity include unexplainable cold spots, disembodied voices, and full-bodied apparitions.